Hey guys, this is Abhishek from gadgetstudio.com, and today we are going to do a comparison review in between the Gionee Elife E6, which is the latest flagship phone from Gionee, and we are going to compare it with the Gionee Elife E5, which was the previous generation phone from Gionee launched in India. So these phones are pretty good in terms of the overall functionality, in terms of the overall hardware. In terms of the specs, I would say both of these phones are very close to each other because both of them have the MediaTek 6589 turbo chipset. That means you have 1.5 GHz quad core processor on both of these phones, which is A7 architecture based. And when it comes to the GPU as well, you have the same GPU on both of these devices. As far as the differences are concerned, there are some differences as well on the basis of camera, on the basis of internal memory as well. So let's start the comparison and let me just tell you the differences and similarities in between these two phones. Now starting with the similarity, both of these phones are the unibody phones, but in terms of the overall design they are different. When it comes to the slimness or the thickness, I would say the Gionee Elife E5 is kind of thin at 6.8 millimeter, whereas you have a thickness of around 6.95 or approximately 7.1 millimeter in terms of the overall thickness which is there on the Gionee Elife E6. Now if we take a look over the finishing, we have the white version of both of these phones. However, we do get the black version of the Gionee Elife E6, whereas this phone is available in three colors. One is the white, second is yellow, and third is black. But this one comes in two colors only, the white and black. The white one has a glossy finish, as you can see, whereas the black one has a matte finish to it. As far as the white version of this device is concerned, this one looks better because it has a matte finish at the back side, and again the back cover is non-removable on both of these phones, so you cannot remove the battery out of any of these two. As far as the camera is concerned, you have a 13 megapixel camera over here, whereas you have a 8 megapixel camera. So both of these cameras are capable of recording high definition video as well. When it comes to the flash, you do have LED flash on both of these phones. You also have secondary mic on the Gionee Elife E6 as well as you have it on the Gionee Elife E5. When it comes to the connectivity, on the top you have the 3.5mm audio jack over here. You have it over here on the Gionee Elife E5. On this side you have the SIM card tray slot. Basically you can insert a micro SIM into this device, and on this side on the left basically you have the volume rocker on the Gionee Elife E5, and you have the power and sleep key, and both of these buttons are metallic buttons and they give you good amount of feedback, and also they give a premium look to the device as far as the look and feel is concerned. At the bottom we have nothing on this device as far as the E5 is concerned, whereas you have the loudspeaker mesh over here. You have the micro USB port for data syncing and charging at the bottom on the E6, whereas it is on the side on the Elife E5. When it comes to this part, as far as the primary mic is concerned, we do have a primary mic on this device as well, which is over here on the edge, whereas it is over here on Gionee Elife E6. Now if we take a look over this side, we have the volume rocker on the E6, which is again a metal button, and over here you have the micro USB port for data syncing and charging. For the device comes with an inbuilt storage of 16 GB, out of which around 13 GB is available to the user. In terms of the phone memory as well as the user memory is concerned, the user available memory is around 10 GB, whereas on the Gionee Elife E6 you get a 32 GB version, and out of 32 GB you get around 24 to 25 GB available to the user, which is high as compared to the E5. But talking about the interface, we have a fairly different kind of interface on both of these phones. You have the Amigo UI interface on this one, whereas this one has a slightly different interface, although I don't know whether this is the Amigo UI interface or not. Maybe this is the older version of Amigo UI interface. So in terms of the overall look and feel, both of these phones can be customized. You have app drawer on this one, whereas you do not have app drawer on this one. This is a kind of a single level UI which you will see. All the icons you will see on the home screen. There is no area where you can actually access all the applications which are there on the phone, whereas you can do it over here on this phone. So which is better? So I would say the better UI is there on the Gionee Elife E5 as compared to E6. Although you do have some widgets over here which are part of this Amigo UI which is running on Gionee Elife E6. You do not have these kind of widgets over here, but you do have different other widgets as far as weather is concerned and other things are concerned. You can also place widgets on the home screen on this device, whereas you cannot place any widgets on the home screen on this device. Another difference in between these two phones is the display. When it comes to the display size, you have 4.8 inch of display on the Gionee Elife E5, whereas you have 5 inch of display on the Gionee Elife E6, and you can easily notice the difference in the size of the display as well as in terms of the colors. I would say the kind of colors which I see on this display are actually better as compared to this display, because this is a Super AMOLED display which will definitely give you better colors, as far as this display is an IPS LCD display which will give you better viewing angles, I would say. And apart from that, as far as the resolution of the display is concerned, we have a full high definition display on this device, that is 1920 into 1080 resolution on this display, and we have a 720p display on this phone. That means you have a resolution of 720 into 1280. So you get a pixel density of around 441 pixels per inch on this display, which make the text quite precise, crisp and clear in terms of the formation. As you can see, as far as this display is also pretty good as far as the clarity of the text is concerned. It has got a pixel density of 316 pixels per inch, which is again fairly good, and you won't notice any pixelation on this display as well. Another difference in between these two devices is the RAM. You have 1 GB of RAM on this device, out of which you get around 540 MB of RAM free, and you have around 428 MB of RAM which is used in the idle scenario. On this device, out of 2 GB of RAM, you get around 1.0 GB is used by the operating system, whereas you get around 0.88 GB available to the user. So you get more amount of free RAM on this device as compared to this device, and again the RAM size is also different. You have 2 GB of RAM on this, whereas you have 1 GB of RAM on E5. On the version of Android, both of these devices run the same version of Android, that is Android 4.2.1, which comes preloaded on both of these phones. As far as storage is concerned, you get around 10 plus 3 GB, approximately 10.5 plus 2.6, approximately 13 GB available to the user on this device, whereas you get around 24 plus 1.61, that is approximately 25 or 26 GB available to the user on the Gionee Elife E6. Have the same 5 megapixel front camera on both of these phones. As you can see, you have the proximity and ambient light sensors on both of these phones. You have the metallic earpiece over here, whereas you have a metallic mesh below the glass on this device. Now to show you the camera performance, we have just taken a photo of the same object from both of these phones from the back camera, and this is how the photo looks like on the Gionee Elife E6. And let me just zoom this photo so that you can take a closer look. Again, the clarity of the text as well as the details and the colors are pretty good on this photo which we have taken on the Gionee Elife E6, whereas if we take a look over the same photo with the 8 megapixel camera from which this has been taken, this photo is not that clear in terms of the details as compared to this one which we see on Gionee Elife E6. So in terms of the camera, definitely you will see better photos being clicked in daylight as well as in low light from the Gionee Elife E6 as compared to the Gionee Elife E5. And this is how the display as well will look like. So you will also get an idea about the display clarity and the viewing angles for both of these displays. As you can see, you can view both of these displays at extreme viewing angles. This one is slightly better in terms of the overall colors, I would say, because this is an AMOLED screen, whereas this one is slightly better on the contrast as well as in terms of the brightness. Now on AnTuTu, these devices have scored almost the same score, and they are very close to each other in terms of the benchmark score which we see on AnTuTu. We have got a score of 15968 on Gionee Elife E5, whereas we have got a score of 15377 on Gionee Elife E6. On Quadrant Standard, we have got a score of 4813 on Gionee Elife E5, whereas we have got a score of 3913 on the E6, which is lesser than the E5. Now here lies the major difference in between these two devices. The score which we have got on Nina Mark for the Gionee Elife E6 is 34.5 FPS approximately, whereas we have got a score of 56.1 FPS on the Gionee Elife E5, and this device definitely is better on the gaming front as compared to E6. E6 is the next iteration phone, but still on the gaming front this device performs much better than E6, especially in graphic intensive games like Asphalt Civil, Frontline Commando D-Day, and some other games which are more graphic intensive, including Modern Combat 4 as well, which runs smoothly on the Gionee Elife E5, whereas it lags to a great extent on the Gionee Elife E6. So that's all from us as far as the quick hands-on comparison of the Gionee Elife E6 with the Gionee Elife E5. We really like both of these devices as far as the day-to-day usage is concerned, as far as the better viewing experience is concerned, the better high definition resolution if you want, then you can always go for the Gionee Elife E6, whereas if you want a better gaming device you can always go for the Gionee Elife E5. So E5 is a better device on the gaming front. This one is a better device in terms of the display, I would say. As far as the colors are concerned, the colors are rendered much better on this display, whereas the colors are pretty good but the contrast levels are actually better on this display. So that's all from us as far as the comparison of the Gionee Elife E6 with the E5. And again, in terms of the overall comparison, the conclusion which we have for these two devices is that if you want a gaming device, E5 is a better device because the games will run better on this one, especially the graphic intensive game. They will not lag over here, whereas they might lag in some of the times while playing those games on this device on the E6 as compared to the E5. As far as the display is concerned, the display is definitely full high definition display which you get on this device, but you get a 720p display on this device. As far as the camera is concerned, you get a better camera on Gionee Elife E6 as compared to the 8 megapixel camera. We have a 13 megapixel camera on the Gionee Elife E6. The storage is definitely better on E6 as well. You have larger amount of storage available to the user on E6, that is around 25 to 26 GB you get on this device available to the user, whereas you get around 13 GB available to the user on this device. These are all the differences which we have in between these two devices. Again, it is your choice which one you would like to pick. For gaming, I would recommend you E5. If you want to have a better day-to-day usage, if you want to have a full high definition display on your phone, you can always go for the Gionee Elife E6, and also you can go for this device for the better camera as well. You get a 13 megapixel camera on this device as compared to the 8 megapixel camera which we have on E5. So that's all from us as far as the quick hands-on comparison. Do let us know if you have any specific question for these two devices. We would love to help you. You can like this video if this video helped you by clicking the like button below. You can subscribe to our YouTube video channel for more videos like this by clicking the subscribe button below. Thanks for watching this video. This is Abhishek signing off. Thank you.